Chapter 9-4. Okay, we're going to be dealing with negative exponents here. And what I want you to put in your notes is that negative exponents are a math foul. Okay, cannot have them. Can't leave them negative. And I'm going to show you how to deal with a negative exponent. It's a very, very simple fix. Okay. It's kind of like, except for there's no simple fix for it. It's kind of like 0 in the bottom of a fraction. That's just a big time math foul. Can't have a 0 in the bottom of a fraction. This is kind of another one of those math fouls. All right, so I tried to kind of make connections with your homework. So your homework should have the same instructions as our notes do. So in this first half or first top part, notice what they're asking us to do. Write each expression using a positive exponent. Are they asking us to evaluate it, solve it, anything like that? We're not going to have an equal sign, right? So all we're going to do is write the expression with the positive exponent. Are we all in agreement that I can actually write this over 1? Every whole number is really in a fraction. Okay, always is. We just don't ever write it. The way you get rid of a negative exponent is you put it in the opposite part of the fraction and drop the negative. Do we ever leave the top of a fraction empty? So I'm going to fill it with a 1. That's it. We just rewrote this expression with a positive exponent. And I'm going to show you, yes, but when I first started teaching this, I used to say you flip it, but I want to show you why I'm not actually flipping it. So I'm not taking the whole fraction and doing the reciprocal, right? That's where you take the bottom number and put it on top and the top number and put it on bottom. Now it kind of looks like that here because the 1 was on the bottom and now the 1's on the top. And that's fine. The number 2 would be the same way, right? I would put the 10 to the 6th power on the bottom, but I can't leave my top empty, so I fill it. So it sort of looks like I'm flipping it. But here's why I kind of get away from using the term flipping it. I want you to look at example number 11 here, 5z to the 4th. And here's why I don't say flip it anymore. The only thing that you have to move is what has the negative exponent. You don't move everything, okay? And really, it's not written, but what is the exponent of that 5? It's 1, right? Because really, this is 5 times z to the negative 4. And if I really wanted to get technical, it's 5 to the 1st power. We never write that, but it's there. Times z to the negative 4. I'm not taking the 5 down. The 5 stays right where it's at. I'm only taking the z down to get rid of the negative 4. It's a terrible 4. Okay, I'm only moving the z because that's the only term that has, I shouldn't say the only term, because this is a monomial. And, you know, the whole marriage thing, that's great and all until you're dealing with negative exponents. Okay, because every term or every part of a term has an exponent, you're only moving what has a negative. Does that make sense? Are we good there? So if you look at one like 3 times t to the negative 1, I'm not moving the 3. I'm leaving the 3 alone. I'm only moving the t because it is what has the negative exponent. Now, if parentheses become involved, then that's a different story because parentheses say that both of those have a negative 1 exponent, so they both would flip to the bottom. Okay, so parentheses change things a little bit. All right, you just got to be aware of what parentheses do. But no parentheses, only pull into the other part of the fraction what has a negative, okay? What if your base is a negative? Okay, we talked about this last week. If your base is a negative, okay, keep the parentheses around it, pull the whole thing down. So I'm going to keep the parentheses, pull the whole thing down, and just drop the negative on the exponent. And that's really important. You drop the negative on the exponent when you bring it to the other part of the fraction. Notice I do not drop the negative that's part of my base. Okay. Do I ever leave it empty? Yep, so you stick a 1 there. because anytime you have a denominator, the understood numerator, unless it's something different, would be a 1. Okay. Now I don't have an example like this, but I just want to share this. Okay. Do I flip this? I shouldn't say flip. Do I have to move this one? What do you guys think? Do I need to move this to the bottom? No. This negative means nothing as far as math fouls and negative exponents. You can have a negative base all day long, and that's okay. Just keep your parentheses. You just can't have a negative exponent. That is what causes the move. Okay? Good with that? That is the top section of your homework. Okay? Nothing wilder and crazier. You don't have to put this one in your notes. You've already done enough as far as examples, but -1 to the +12. I put it in the other part of the fraction. I drop the negative. Okay. If it was on the bottom, I would put it in the top. Okay. It doesn't change anything. If you start out with a problem like this one right here, and I don't think you have any like this on your homework, but I just want to make sure everybody understands it. If you have a problem like this, and I want to get rid of that negative exponent, I just put it in the top. So it would become c to the 6. Now, do I have to put it over 1? Now, you don't have to. I would just leave it c to the 6th. Okay. Sound good? It's got a negative exponent. Move it to the other side of the fraction. That's pretty much it. All right. The middle part of your homework, and I added this because your homework has it. Okay. So the middle part of your homework says write each fraction as an expression using negative exponents. And then your homework adds a little extra. Can't use a -1. Okay. So let's look at number 13 here. I need to rewrite this using a negative exponent. So now I'm kind of doing the opposite. I'm sticking the negative in there. Well, if moving it to the other part of the fraction, you can drop the negative. To add the negative back, what would I do? If I need to add that negative back, I put it in the top. And again, you do not have to put it over 1. Okay, you never have to put a whole number over 1. You always have to put a 1 in the top of a fraction. So if the positive was in the bottom and I need to write it as a negative, I just have to put it in the other part of the fraction and add the negative, because if I wanted to convert this back to proper, I would just pop it to the bottom, right? So if I need to undo that, I just reverse it and put it in the top and add a negative. So for this one, 1 over x to the 3rd, I simply move x to the 3rd up top and add that negative. Good with that? All right, there's one caveat I want to address, one little difference here. First of all, let's make this a negative. What am I going to do to make this a negative? To make a negative exponent, I put it in the other part of the fraction, right? So if you want to still keep the fraction for a second, you can. So I'm going to put it up top, and I'm going to put a -1. Well, the directions said I can't use a -1. The directions on your homework specifically say you can't use a -1. How could I rewrite 49 using an exponent other than 1 that would equal the exact same thing? What's unique about 49? What? -7. Not -7, but you're on the right track. 7 to the negative what? What do I need to do to 7 to make it equal 49? Square it. Does 7 to the -2 equal 49 to the -1? Do those both equal 49 on the bottom? Because the negative would pop it to the bottom, right? So I'm just doing the opposite. I'm adding a negative exponent. So I'm putting it in the other part of the fraction, but because the instructions specifically said no -1, I just had to get creative. And I will tell you, the ones on your homework, it's only perfect squares where it does this. And that's why I have this one X'd out, because can I write this one the same way? I can flip it over, right? I can put 39 to the -1, but there's nothing I can do. I can't square 39. I can't, well, I guess, could I cube it? Nope. There's nothing I can do to 39. It's not a perfect square. It's not a perfect cube. It's not a perfect anything. Okay. So that's why I had that one marked out, because, and you won't have any like that on your homework. You will only have ones on your homework like this one. Whoops. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it at a negative exponent, right? I'm going to put it in the top of the fraction. Don't need to write that. Yes. Yes. 144 is a perfect square, and it can be written as 12 to the negative 2. Okay, this is just a little bit of math manipulation. Okay, just a little, almost like a mental game to still adhere to the instructions of no negative 1. Okay. All right, last on your homework and in your notes, you need to add this information to make it make sense, that x equals 3, y equals negative 2, and z equals 4. Because now notice our instructions change, and we go from just expressing things to evaluating, right? Evaluating. So we're changing things. So we're actually going to get an answer. Okay, we're not going to just leave it. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, so x to the negative 4, I'm going to fill in what x is, and I'm going to use parentheses here. So I'm going to fill in what x is, and I'm going to raise it to the negative 4. And in this case, x is 3. And before I do anything, I'm going to get rid of that negative exponent. And so I'm going to put it on the bottom and get rid of the negative. So now I've got 3 to the 4th power. That almost looks like 34. Let me fix that and make sure it's very clear. There we go. And now, because it says evaluate, I'm actually going to put what is 3 to the 4th power. What is it? Yes, 81. And that's what you're going to circle as your answer. So under evaluate, you're going to go a little bit further, and you're actually going to figure it out as far as all the way down.
Teachers, pardon this interruption. This announcement for the wrestlers. All middle school wrestlers are to report to the gym at 4:15 this evening.
Be very careful here. The biggest mistake, and I teach this in algebra also, because this is an algebra concept as well, okay? Biggest mistake I see is everybody goes from here to here, okay? If you flipped it to the bottom, leave it in the bottom, okay? Make sure that you don't accidentally flip it back in the same problem. Okay, I'll do one more example. We've got y to the negative 2. Well, y is a negative 2. And then it's raised to the negative 2. So I plugged in negative 2 for y, and then it says to raise it to the negative 2. Well, before I do anything, I'm going to deal with my negative exponent. I don't care about my negative base right now. My negative exponent is going to put the negative 2 on bottom, and now it's a positive exponent. So now I'm fair to now evaluate it. I'm going to keep it on the bottom since it's already down there. And negative 2 squared is just negative 2 times negative 2. So it's just positive 4. Sound good? When you have, this is the last one, okay? And this is really important because PEMDAS matters. So if we have 3 times z, which somebody tell me what z was so I don't have to go back up. 4. Raised to the negative 1. All right. 3 times 4 raised to the negative 1. If I say 3 times 4 is 12, 12 to the negative 1 would be 1 over 12. Would anybody agree that that's the right answer? It's not. Okay, why not? PEMDAS says I do what first? Okay, inside the parentheses, can't do anything else. That's good there. What's next? Exponents. Leave that 3 alone. Just flip the 4 because the 4 is the only thing that has a negative 1. What's the exponent of the 3? It's a 1. If you do this out of order, you're going to get the wrong answer. I got 112 when I did it, what seems to be just the knee-jerk reaction, 3 times 4, right? But I don't do multiplication first. I do powers first. I do parentheses, then I do powers. So when I'm dealing with powers, I got to get rid of that negative. The 3 stays where it's at because it has a positive 1. The 4 flips to the bottom. And now that's my correct answer. Okay. All right. It's odds only on your homework, evens if you want to do them for a little bit of bonus. And for those of you at home, email me if you have any questions.